Oh, hey guys, it looks like this is done on a teleprompter, so we'll see how this works. They just introduced Aaron, Shara, and them to the stage, and I also had the honor on top of all that of moderating this session, so this is the moderator. So just thought I'd add that to my list and make the week extra fun. So we're going to have a lot of fun today, talking about metaverse technology, all things that are really interesting topics, and I'm sure everyone has a lot of thoughts in all different directions on the matter. But we're at a really prolific moment in time where the themes of Ready Player One are actually going from science fiction to reality. So, this year of 2024 and being here at South by Southwest is pretty special for a lot of reasons that we'll touch on today. And without further ado, I'm going to let my esteemed co founders introduce themselves. Mr. Ernie Cline, take it away. Hey guys, I'm Ernie. Thank you guys so much for coming today. We appreciate it. I'm a novelist and I started out as a screenwriter and then became a novelist. I wrote Ready Player One, Armada, Ready Player One, and I have a new book called A Bridge to Bat City that's coming out in a few weeks. And I'm excited to talk with you guys today. Awesome. My name is Dan Farah. Prior to Readyverse, primarily been focused on working as a producer to build commercial film and TV projects and to represent talent, mostly creators. I'm one of the producers of Ready Player One, the movie, and been collaborating with Ernie for about 18 years now. Yeah. Good day, everyone. Aaron here, all the way from Auckland, New Zealand. First time in Austin. Great city. Loving to be here. First time at South by Southwest, and kind of surreal to be up here with some of my heroes to talk to you about Readyverse. I'm the tech guy. I've been 25 years in technology and co-founded Futureverse with Shara, which is a leading AI Web3 technology company. We're partners in crime in all things, so it's super fun. So we recently announced that we've come together to form Readyverse Studios, which is next-gen technology and experience studio, and it was predicated by the fact that we believe that the timing for mass IP to evolve the way consumers engage with the stories that they love is now. There is no IP that has been shaped the global culture and the conversation around the potential of the metaverse more than Ready Player One. I think we can all agree in this room, especially. And since we've read all the articles that open with in Ready Player One, just like in Ready Player One, and so congrats, Ernie, for shaping that. But to that point, we're going to start with why we came together. So one of the most interesting parts of the film, I think, is that it opened by saying in 2045, but it's 2024. So did that mean that we just beat the prediction by 20 years? What is your feeling on the timing of all this and why now? Well, the timing just blows my mind that all came about much more quickly than I anticipated. 2045, I thought was maybe a conservative estimate that something would happen on that level by then. But it happened. It began to happen almost immediately. As the book was published, and then a lot of the people working on the technology, we ended up drawing inspiration from it. So the timing was incredible, and I can't believe we're here in Austin talking about what we're talking about now. It's incredible. Some people might say it's scary, and it's accelerated this fast. You can imagine that. We believe it's amazing, and it's going to be a really fun ride, or it is a really fun ride because we're in the metaverse now already. We'll get to that. So Dan, why don't you jump in and give us your perspective on how this all came together? Why is this moment in time important? How did it obviously one of the most important and very cool things that Aaron and I have respected about both of you is that you're not only creators and filmmakers, but you had the ambition to bring to life something you put in a movie, which most creators put it on a screen and make it as crazy and fantastical as they can, and they don't give much thought to. Could this become a reality? Take us through your ambition to do that. All right. Yeah, so Ernie and I actually started talking about Ready Player One when we met here at South by South in 2006. He was already working on the book, and obviously we were excited to one day hopefully turn it into a big movie. But even back then, we talked about wanting to one day bring the ideas that were in his head about the future of the metaverse and interoperable experiences, bring them to life. The technology wasn't there at the time, though, so years later, after the movie came out and gave people an idea about the potential of the metaverse, technology was finally starting to catch up. So we started talking with potential technology partners to help us bring about our ideal uh, vision of the metaverse. And that's when we met Shara, and Aaron, and they called it Futureverse with really remarkable tech. And they were the ideal partners for many reasons, including they shared the same vision and just belief system on how to do it right, and how we all came together. Like Dan mentioned, Aaron and I came together to launch Futureverse, an AI metaverse infrastructure company, about 3 years ago. Prior to that, I've spent my career for the last 15 years as a hybrid technology entertainment entrepreneur, which you can imagine is very, very fun because you get to be in the middle of two sides of a coin that don't necessarily want to work together. Where technology historically has set a precedent where they take creative and IP and they don't necessarily do right by the creators, and on the other side, creators in Hollywood and brands feel like technology just comes in and owns and emphasizes and changes business models in their favor. And so I've been in a position where I've been constantly trying to blend and recreate and redefine how creators and technology work together so that it can be more symbiotic relationship and we can find a better way to have mutual benefits. And so when Aaron and I first started talking about the fact that Ready Player One is referenced in everything that speaks to the metaverse, it is the quintessential IP that showed the masses what the metaverse, the potential of what the metaverse could be. We knew that if we were going to do something with our technology, we had to. Also, the same way the technology was going to change and evolve the internet, we also had to evolve the relationship with the creator. So it was simply a non starter for us to bring an IP that didn't have creators involved in a really, really deep way. And when we met Ernie and Dan, it was a match made in heaven because you rarely come across people who actually understand what technology can do. So that made a really big difference in how and why we came together. And that's why I think this founding team is really special. So now that I've said Metaverse probably already 15 times, I don't think it was 15, more like 10, but okay. You guys have all said it a bunch, and we'll go on to say it 1,000 times, please no. I thought it would be a good idea to start with defining our perspective on what we believe the Metaverse is, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions around what it is. There's a lack of clarity around what it can be, and so people lack an understanding of why it's important that we build the underlying technology and why it's important that IP, it's important that IP come into it now. So, Aaron, why don't you give us your perspective on the definition of the metaverse? Because it's my favorite. Yeah. So I might start at like the highest possible level and then drill down a little bit. I think the first thing to understand is that the metaverse is already here. Yeah, you know that from the trailer. You know, the world that we live in today is the world that is influenced and contains this digital society. People talk sometimes about the digital economy, for example, or digital society. And the reality is, if we took the digital out of our world today, it would probably collapse. We're so dependent on this technology. In fact, the average human will spend about 45 years of their life looking at a screen. So to say that the metaverse is this thing that's going to happen is kind of silly. Where they're already, and what people jump to is things like gaming and VR and AR and all those kinds of things, which are part of this evolving of society with technology. But fundamentally, the metaverse is about a few things. I think the first thing is this idea of convergence, immersive convergence, and that's a journey that's already started. I borrowed that term actually from Tencent. Oh, do we get Tencent here? Oh, wait, no, this was mentioned before. And a really good way to think about that would be to think about something like the silos that existed early on in the internet. We had communications, we had commerce, we had media, we had finance, we had gaming that are all kind of quite separate things. You went to different places, telecommunications companies and media companies had their own separate network infrastructure. It was all very distinct, and then things started to come along that would smash those user experiences together. Social media was probably the biggest first thing that took communication and media and put them together in one platform and changed the industry for both of those things. And that was continued to happen. And we're seeing things like commerce now. The fastest growing commerce platforms in the world emerge with social commerce. Social commerce is another immersive experience on the internet that took those separate things and push them together into one streamlined customer experience. Oh my God, it's got water. And so that's kind of the fundamental idea of the metaverse, is that these different customer experiences are coming together in one customer experience journey and in one place. And the ideas of things like gaming, for example, are making their way into the way customer experience is designed more than games is the metaverse, if that kind of makes sense. So with that in context, the most important thing about the metaverse is actually the data layer. And so, the future of the internet, if we think the metaverse is the internet growing up, we want to have a data layer that is open, that is user owned, and that is interoperable. So, as many applications as possible can connect to that data layer and provide customer experiences. And we don't end up in a place where all of that stuff happens in one corporation's application. And that's really what the mission of the open metaverse is to create the technology for the interoperability that allows anyone, whether you're a kid in your backyard or a brand that's trying to connect with your customers, to access that open user-owned data layer and create experiences on top of that if they are interoperable. And just to add on to that, the data layer, to make it really simple, I know sometimes when we say that term, it's like, what are we talking about? The data layer is information about you and the information about the things that you love and the things that you use and where it's stored. So it's really simple. We all have information about ourselves, our identity, and that's something that, as Aaron touched on, we believe is the catalyst and the underlying layer that makes the metaverse, and is critical in how we'll go on to evolve the future of the internet. So Ernie, yes, you're clearly a psychic, which we now all know. But one thing I will add is that we've been working in Hollywood since the last 15 years, and I've been able to work with some of the most amazing storytellers and creators and writers. And one of the things that I think about every day, and I noticed the first time I met Ernie, is he has a heart of gold. And so there's no coincidence that he wrote a movie and a book, and then the screenplay and stories that talk about characters that operate from a heart-centered place. And that's really, really, really important, because we all know that as technology evolves, and all of the areas that we've talked about today, maintaining the why you're doing what you're doing is critical. And that why is more important now than ever with how the metaverse evolves. And so, Ernie, as one of the greatest visionaries and storytellers that I certainly have had the honor of working with, can you talk about some of the key values of what you wrote in a narrative, frankly, that was a battle for the technological control of the world, and that were the values you were thinking that had to be maintained underneath it all? So this is Ernie. Well, when I was writing Ready Player One, I was trying to imagine the coolest possible future version of the internet, and the video games kind of conflate it together. And a picture of what that would be like in 30 years, and imagining that, and it was kind of modeled on my experience with the early days of the internet, which felt like this new frontier that was egalitarian technology that everyone could use and have access to. And regardless of your personal resources, and it created all of these possibilities kind of opened. It was like an escape hatch into a better reality, is how I describe it. And so, picturing the Oasis, which is the metaverse in Ready Player One, I picture this kind of sprawling virtual world that was interoperable, that was kind of the one platform to rule them all. Every video game you had ever played and every movie you had ever watched all existed in this virtual space and had its own. It was kind of interoperable, all this IP, and you could take, a magical sword from Middle Earth into a completely other planet. Hyperia devoted to Conan or to a cyberpunk world, and you could have Star Wars and Star Trek planets anchored, in different sectors, and it was such a fun idea, and so much of it was the video game that I always wanted, and the version of the internet where it's not just isolated websites. Instead of websites, you have planets. You can travel to each, surreal estate, your own kind of virtual place that you could, if you meet somebody from the other side of the world in the metaverse, you could have them over to your house to hang out. So, all these things, but just the idea of a free and open space that is not controlled by the characters in the story are fighting for is for an open metaverse that is egalitarian and accessible to everyone, not controlled by anyone, person or entity. And that's what's so exciting to me about working with you guys is that we're after that same goal of not creating a closed metaverse, but one that where everyone who has a world to build will be able to connect it and have be the groundwork that underlies an open metaverse that everyone can have a part and have control of. And you can take your stuff from one world to the next. That was all the stuff that was, imagining in the story that has miraculously started to become possible. AI and the metaverse as two different topics are really interesting. We obviously saw the rise of NFTs a couple of years ago, and then we instantly pushed that away for the hype of AI, and suddenly it's AI. The metaverse is dead. We don't really believe that's the case. We believe there's two sides of the same coin. Aaron, jump into your vision of how they're coming together and why they always were intended to come together. Here's Aaron. Yeah, I think what you said there is right. There are two sides of the same coin. I gave a keynote at the Morgan Stanley China Summit, and the first slide I put up was, long live, sort of. The metaverse is dead. Long live. Kind of tongue in cheek and little bit of kind of history before I explain the context. Throughout the evolution of the internet, every time we've made it easy for people to create a certain kind of content, it's become the default kind of content on the internet. And so in the early days, it was really hard to make websites. I was an engineer building dial-up networks back in the day, and the early days of broadband, and you had to know how to code or know someone who could code. And those people were rare and expensive. And as the internet progressed, it became easier. Tools got made like Works and Squarespace and WordPress so that anyone could go and create a website. And so now everyone has a website. And the same thing happened when social media came about. Anyone could then become a publisher. And now the default kind of media consumed is from those, from those platforms. And so every time we make it simple for people to create a certain kind of content, that becomes the default content on the internet. Now, what happened when the hype of the metaverse was the same thing that happened when the first days of the internet came about? Everyone rushed to build something that resembled an immersive experience and quickly figured out the only people who could do that were game developers. There weren't very many of them. They became very expensive to find, and so you could end up with the kind of demand that couldn't be met by supply and certainly couldn't be made available to everyday people. And what we've seen with AI now is the creative power of a game developer coming to life with tools that you can talk to, and that's an exceptional change in the way that content can be created. We've been building tools to do that for music. We have our own foundation models for music, for 3D, these kind of things that can enable anyone to conjure the worlds that they imagine. And so when we put those tools in the hands of users that will become the default kind of content that's on the internet, you can't imagine a world where I exist and dominates. And in the same breath, say that content nowhere to live. GC content lives in the metaverse, and that's why the two things are important and why they come together to create this possibility. And the rise of the conversation of AI has really helped the metaverse. I think, as we mentioned before, for the definition just becomes challenging to understand, and everyone's trying to understand where this is going. But nonetheless, we can affirm that everyone wants to jump in. They do know it's really exciting. So Dan, let me throw it back to you as a filmmaker and creator of IP, certainly someone who's worked on the marketing side, as well as you bring a lot in your big properties out to the world. Talk to us about the timing of what you're seeing in Hollywood and with big IP in relation to their willingness to jump in and test the metaverse. Test the waters of what the metaverse can become. Like and share the screen, comment. Holy jeez, this is a lot of text. Appreciate you guys being here. Yeah, so I would say most of the big IP in the world is owned and controlled by the major US studios. And right now, more than ever, those businesses have to focus on their core business of making movies and TV shows and putting all their resources towards that. And so, for the most part, studios are just sitting on these rights, and we think it's a great opportunity for them right now because it's a fresh revenue source to exploit their IP. It's a way for them to reach their fandoms, a bigger way for them to reach their fandoms. A lot of big movie franchises and TV series have long lag periods in between installments, so it's a way to keep your fans engaged, give them things to do, to allow them opportunities to, engage with the stuff they love in the downtime. There's really no downside right now. And in reality, studios don't have the bandwidth or resources to go figure this out on their own, so we're pretty much of a turnkey solution for them to do cool stuff, create new revenue streams, create new opportunities for their fans. Yeah, we felt like the timing was now to create a studio that would sit on the middle of what technology and Hollywood and IP were trying to do, because everyone was raising their hands saying, we're ready to jump in now. Just how do we jump in? Where do we start? What does this look like? How do we engage consumers? What are the value propositions of the metaverse, and what do they allow that other platforms don't, I guess? We're putting our time, money, and attention and don't necessarily allow today, or won't necessarily allow in the future. So on that point, Aaron, the other thing about is I think studios are all looking for opportunities like this. When we announced Readyverse in January, started getting a lot of incoming phone calls from studios that own big IP, and we want to put our IP in your guys' hands. I think one of the reasons they also find us very appealing is that we've been on both sides of the fence, so we understand their sensitivities and how they want to protect their content. The kind of things to look out for to make them feel safe and make creators feel safe, and exactly. And to that point, they've also said, okay, what is the value proposition here? What is the core value of the metaverse? What are some of the core values of the metaverse? And so I want to talk today to keep it really simple and high level so that everyone can walk away with something that's really tangible. Aaron, let's jump into the core values of the metaverse around user ownership, meaning you can own and control things that you love. And obviously we've talked about interoperability a little bit, which is you can take the things that you own and control with. Dan talks so fast. Holy sheesh. Now that requires a lot of tech that we're going to get into, but let's talk about the fact that ownership means very little if you can't take it with you. If I can buy something and I can only leave it in my house, well, unless it's a couch, why does it matter? And that is there if I can't bring something with me. If I buy a suitcase and I can't travel with it, how does that work? It doesn't. And so, Aaron, let's talk about our approach to identity and ownership, and then we'll go into operability at the Readyverse. Here's Aaron. Yeah, so like Shara said, I think particularly for those who have been in the Web3 track with the advent of the NFT craze, people really started to understand the concept of digital ownership. And something that Ernie kind of portrayed actually very well in the books and was brought to life in the movie, but as Shara mentioned, ownership without interoperability is meaningless. You can't own something that lives in someone else's yard and truly claim that as yours, your ownership. And so you have to bring those two things together. But if we start with ownership, one of the most important things for society, I think right now, is to get a point where they are truly in control of their data. If we think of those emerging themes around, how AI will impact society positively and negatively, and where that will go from an economic structure, social structure, all of those things, all of those kinds of things, the fuel that feeds those machines is your data. But at the moment, you don't own those things. And so one of the foundational things we need to get right in an open metaverse is data ownership. And so we started that journey by creating a kind of passport we call a Ready Pass. I mean, a Future Pass? Hold on. This is news. Breaking! Where you can own your digital identity. You can own your data that's about you. You can take your social networks with you. You can take your communications and conversations with you. And you can take the things that you value in the digital space with you. So creating that foundational layer is the first step for creating the open metaverse, giving people control back of their identity and their data. and making that open in a way that can be interoperable with lots of applications. Woohoo! So you don't go and recreate the same silos again. So trying to provide that same really good user experience you get from tech platforms with single sign-on, but make it deliver in a way that makes people and communities control over it. So that's the first part of the interoperability. This is really hard in practice. Particularly when you start to get into immersive content and gaming, that kind of stuff, those kind of uh, who are developer producers content out there, that if you're making a video game or to produce an avatar, you're making it for the type of game that you're making. Is it a multiplayer, single player, the platform you're on? Is it mobile? Is it a console? Is it web? Is it desktop? The engine? Is it Unreal Engine? Is it Unity? All of these kind of things impact the type of content you create and how you create it. And that stops interoperability, because to make it work across all those different things in the past has meant you've had to create lots of different versions of those assets. Or you would go towards a standard that was cross-platform, but would get the most average experience across all of the things. So the same thing that worked in a mobile phone would look crappy in an Unreal Engine 5 experience. And so what we've been doing is working really hard on a brand new standard for interoperable content that lives in the metadata layer and not in a file. And that any application can interpret on any engine and on any platform. And so you can truly have ownership of your data with your content and portability with platforms. Very well said. So Aaron mentioned earlier, and this is one of my favorite things we talk about, that we believe the metaverse is the internet growing up. And to just go a little deeper on that, it means that the internet is going to get more mature and have better values and better benefits for individuals, like we just talked about with some of these things. And just like humans who tend to hate change and really dislike evolving, why would the internet be any different? What's interesting about the topic of Web3, and I'm sure everyone in this room knows this, is that it has a stigma and it's varying levels and layers of commentary around what it is. But what's really interesting is we're talking about Web 3 as if we talked about Web 2. We weren't 10 years ago like we're in Web 2. All of a sudden, Web 3 came along and we're talking about Web 3 as if it's like this whole new thing. Really, it's just the next step of where we go, where we look and say, have we been doing it right? Is there a better way to do it? And then we solve some of the problems that haven't been solved, and then we evolve how we evolve. And so some of the commentary and the negativity a bit about Web3 really is that people haven't really wanted to change. But what Web3 will enable, and what the metaverse will enable, is putting humans at the center of the internet. And to that point, Aaron, let's talk about a lot of the incumbent launches and marketplaces and platforms right now, and how in particular they want to avoid the shakeup of Web3, because they don't necessarily want consumers to have the ability to control their assets and control their data, because it may take away some of the revenue. It may change a lot of the ways that they've been doing business. And so now I want to get into what we're actually doing, and let's make this really tangible. So let's start with the Readyverse platform. Aaron, give us the overview of the Readyverse platform. Yeah, so I think the best way to describe it is the Readyverse platform is a set of tools that can enable users and developers to create connected and interoperable content. So instead of having to come out to our place to do things, to find things, you can connect to those tools at that data layer and that identity layer, the content layer, and make your applications in a way that can be interoperable with each other. Now, that's a good first step, the kind of open approach to creating content that has the benefits that certain platforms and marketplaces bring with the user experience, but done in a way that is more open and available to everyday people. We're going to put a layer on top of that, an experience layer on top of that. People can come into that's immersive, and they can interact with their own personal curator that will an AI assistant that will help them discover content and applications and experiences that's interoperable with the things they have and with the things they love. And so you can imagine an experience where you might have a pair of digital shoes, for example, and you go in and you're talking to your agent, having a conversation, and that agent can notice that your digital shoes are compatible with the game over here, and it can suggest you can go and explore that game. And our platform will take care of launching that experience for the user. Now, that could be made in Unreal, it could be made in Unity, it could be made on the web, it could be in social experience. But they can find and discover these things using the Metaverse platform and connected with this interoperability technology underneath. So the Readyverse, by the way, Aaron and I merged 11 companies together to create Futureverse 3 years ago. That pulled those 11 companies were infrastructure, AI, and content companies that have been building in the blockchain Web3 space for 6 + 7 years. So we have not just come up with an idea that we're starting now on. We have been building this for the last 7 or so years, and now we came together with these guys 2 years ago, and we're here talking about it, and we're excited that we can tangibly talk about it. And the reason we're talking about it now is because it's coming this year. This isn't something that we're going to see you in 5 years around. This is something that we're now publicly talking about because it's coming. So the metaverse is a very simple user experience. If we think about or we want to understand how a consumer comes into this. Like Aaron mentioned, the Ready Pass, which is your passport to the open metaverse. So think about it simply like this. You come in, you get your passport. Now, how do you want to show up in the open metaverse as an avatar? You want to be Parsable from Ready Player One. You want to be Mickey Mouse. Do you want to be Barbie? Do you want to be a non-descriptive version of a character or alien or creature that you made up yourself? You can bring a digital collectible in that you already have, or you can get one from there. And then once you come in, you need a place to live, so you need your home. So that's the real estate that Ernie mentioned from his brilliant mind that he created and that we saw in the books. In the movie, you get your real estate. Your real estate can be decorated in ways you want, or it can be branded. And that's where we partnered with brands that will launch brands and so real estate. So that's where you'll be able to live in a home that is one of your favorite scenes from one of your favorite properties. And then from there, you shoot from the Readyverse, like Aaron mentioned, through a portal and into any of the experiences that you want. So Ernie, that sounds fun. What I just said, shoot through it. Shoot through a portal into anywhere you want, and you are the king of wish fulfillment. You showed us on screen and in your books in the most elaborate detail what wish fulfillment can look like, and you're a gamer yourself, which is what makes you incredibly unique to be part of this team. Talk to me about one of your favorite wish fulfillment moments that you conjured up in your mind. That would be the biggest wish I had fulfilled was getting my dream car, was a result of publishing Ready Player One and then realizing, oh, I could buy a DeLorean. Finally, I've wanted to have one since I was a kid, and now I can drive it on my book tour and use it in my author photo, and it'll be a business expense, and that's what I've done. I actually own the 2 DeLoreans. Now I have a Star Wars DeLorean. I'm transforming into the Mandalorian. It's got an R2 unit on the back. I wish I had pictures, but so yeah. And then I got to drive around the country in that car on my book tour and have people like honking at me and freaking out. It's like driving a celebrity when you drive a DeLorean, and I've slowly converted into the Ecto 88, the ghost-busting DeLorean that Parsifal drives in my novel, and then it, appeared in Steven Spielberg's movie based on my novel, so that the DeLorean has followed me, from the first time seeing it as a kid before even Back to the Future came out. And then Back to the Future, one of my favorite movies of all time, and wanting to own a time machine. And so I've gotten to live this whole fantasy through that, owning my dream car that's also tied into the dream of my novel and all of that coming true. So Ernie just schooled us on wish fulfillment and then manifestation. So, just if anyone's taking notes on how you manifest, you just think about the things you want and then you put them down on paper and they become a reality. I am writing down right now that I want you to like the stream. Ah, see, now it's coming to fruition. You guys are great. So, speaking of wish fulfillment and flying DeLoreans, which we can all on this panel say that we love, we're going to do something very special today and premiere for the first time ever the trailer of our hero experience coming to the metaverse. This has never been seen before, and it will publicly go out online after this panel. Can we get a wag me in the chat? So you in this room will be seeing it for the first time. This is the trailer open for our AAA Metaverse gaming experience. Holy geez, 872 people are here. I don't know if these are fudge numbers because X is weird, but thanks so much, guys, for tuning in. Holy sheesh. And yo, Divine, thank you for the the primer. Okay, so I guess we're just waiting for this trailer to be done and then we'll continue. Yo, just imagine you're sitting in that theater right now and you have, oh, here we go. We've been working incredibly hard for years, and now we're very excited to show that. And now talk a little bit about it. So Open is clearly built in Unreal Engine 5. Does that mean Oasis? What's Open? And we believe there hasn't been a defining Web3 powered AAA MMO experience with top tier IP like Ready Player One and other IP that we'll get into talking about now. And so before we jump into the details of the IP that's included and what this will look like, Aaron, let's talk about the format of the game. Yes, so Open is kind of our flagship product for the Open Metaverse. I guess it's literally called Open. Be one of the highest quality experiences out there, like Charlotte said in Web3, and will feature like beloved IP from across your favorite film, TV, brands, and the open world of Web3. Ooh, other Web3 projects. And so bringing those together into a new kind of game experience, which builds off the ideas I think that were portrayed in the novel, which is this kind of battle royale format with a twist. Multi-biome. So each biome can kind of represent a different kind of IP, but also a different kind of game mode. So battle royales typically apply to shooters, and we'll have that experience in there, but battle royale format would be applied to car racing. So it'd be car racing biome. Each one of these is a progressive competition where the winner takes all, just like in a battle royale. And so you can be the overall winner within a particular type of game format, within a particular type of biome, or across the whole game. So really kind of trying to take Battle Royale and twist it up a bit, provide some innovation in there, and provide a home for the different kind of games styles. We think that will be really appealing to a segment of game players that might be left behind. You know, if you look at both bringing nostalgic IP back together and fine-tuning game mechanics for people who might be a little older than, you know, the early teens, where your click rate isn't the most important thing, to being successful, where you can have a chance of being competing at different kinds of game modes to win the overall game. We think it's a really exciting proposition. Attacking a totally forgotten genre, not genre, but segment inside of gaming. Are you saying that because your son destroys you? It is. It's mostly because my son destroys me and I want a chance to get my own back. So Aaron, jump in a little bit about the team behind this game, because this isn't just a small little group. So if you're going to put those words out there, AAA, you need to have that kind of people to back that up. And so we've been out there and working behind the scenes to pull together an all-star team. So we're collaborating with a studio called Walker Labs, based up in Europe. And they have pulled together an all-star team from, you name it, Epic, Ubisoft, EA, Mojang, DICE, Microsoft, PlayStation, to build a high quality, and we think the first AAA experience in Web3 with AAA IP. Dan, speaking of IP, yeah, go ahead. You want to jump in? Yeah, I was just going to say we found that all the major studios are super excited to have their IP come into open to create avatars based on characters in big movies and TV shows, weapons based on things from those movies and TV shows, just other experiences to do in open based on their IP. What do you guys think of the name Open for it, by the way? Let me know in the chat. So it's an exciting time. Okay, we have more trick up our sleeve. So those are two pieces. The platform and open, Ernie, the Easter egg hunt is clearly the main plot of Ready Player One. For those of you who have seen it, if you know that, for those type of you who haven't, since we have the master in the room and it feels like we have to do something like very fan related, can you, in your own words, tell us about the Easter egg hunt and explain how it worked, what it was, how you designed it? Yes, in the novel, the creator of the Oasis, the Metaverse like world in my book, he dies. And it's an announcement is released to all the users that he's hidden a series of Easter eggs. Throughout this sprawling virtual world, and characters have to collect a series of open 3 hidden keys and find a series of 3 hidden keys to 3, open the 3 gates and find 3 hidden keys to win. Actually control of the Oasis and trillions of dollars, so that was kind of based on finding Easter eggs in old Atari games. When I was a kid, like Adventure and Yar's Revenge, and always finding Easter eggs or something hidden by the creator in a virtual world that I was playing always resonated with me when I was young, and so it was kind of marrying that idea with what if Willy Wonka was a game designer and held his golden ticket contest inside the greatest video game ever created. So that's the heart of it. And it's kind of that's the inspiration behind what we're doing in our hunt inside of Open. So off of the hunt, which is obviously one of our favorite parts in general, and we couldn't leave that behind. Aaron, let's talk about the third pillar of the Readyverse ecosystem, which is the hunt. We're currently developing hunts with a lineup of major brands, which we won't air and announce today. Aaron, don't announce anything for everyone who might be in this room knows who Aaron McDonald. He likes to drop things and leak things without telling me or anyone, including the people who are part of them. So Aaron, do not announce them. But if you go back, somebody's freaking out, and look at the trailer, you'll find some Easter eggs for some of them. And those brands that we're developing hunts with, or a lot of brands that we're developing hunts with, let's explain, Aaron, how that works. So I think this is Aaron. Yes, so there's 2 parts to the hunt. So if you think like Shahara said, you kind of first entry point is that passport that you can take your stuff with you, and the second thing is the place to discover experiences, connected experiences in the open metaverse. The third thing is Open, which is our flagpole hero experience, and then the last thing is the hunt. The hunt has got 2 halves. So if you think about us bringing together lots of game developers who are building lots of different kinds of experiences and making them accessible through the Readyverse, what we wanted to do was create a thread that could bind all of those things together. So it felt like you were playing one big meta game. And so the hunt on one side enables game developers to embed quests inside of their games and activities and experience things that tree up to a global leaderboard, so you can have lots of different games connected to the hunt. And everyone playing each of those games is earning their way up this ladder, up this leaderboard, and earning rewards on the way. Intersect that with the opportunity for brands and IP to offer experiences and value to those consumers. And so you could have hunts happen in your website, in your social page, in your e-commerce, experience in a physical location, at a movie theater, wherever you want to engage your consumers. You can trigger these hunt experiences that help those users who are playing the overall hunt game to climb the leaderboard and give them new kinds of digital rewards. We're launching an experience soon with Reebok that will showcase how simple hunts are and how helpful they are for consumers. And also, sort of atop of what Aaron said, you won't really know that you're in a hunt until suddenly you realize says, "Oh, I'm a part of a meta internet game and have just entered the playing field, and now I can engage with the brands I love, earn rewards that I could have never earned before, keep them in a place where they're easy to find, really, really easy to access, really easy to turn in, multiply, and be part of a larger experience. And suddenly we will be in the meta of what the hunt can really be." So that kind of takes us through what we're working on, which we believe is really special and exciting, and it's really interesting. Like we opened up and talked about, the metaverse isn't coming, it's here, and there are so many people we know, not only on the stage, but in this room, that we are working on areas and important parts of how this all comes to life. And like we showcased in Open, and the reason we call the game Open is because it is a platform that we stand on, which is to be open, to be collaborative, to be inclusive. There is no one that we won't work with, and we'll hear a lot. We've all heard a lot about some of the major metaverses that have existed up until this point, or games and experiences, and everyone's like, why do I need to go there? Why do I need to go to you? Or why do I need to go here? We believe it will be one place, one day, and we believe that has already started. And so it's not, we're waiting for that next chapter to come, and that next chapter has already begun. And we hope to be a huge part of what it can be for the better of everyone online and everyone's values, and our values being brought out into the world in some really big ways. So that does it. Thank you guys for being here and for working with me. It's my honor to be part of a team like this, and thank you all for coming to hear about what we're doing. And if you want to find out more, head to Reduce.com. So you're a creator, you want to connect your thing that you're building to the metaverse, check us out there. If you're a brand, you want to engage with your consumers in a different way. If you're a studio, you've got IP you want to bring to life, go there and check out those things, and we'll be waiting to help you do that. Thank you. Thank you all so much for thank you. Thank you. Oh my God. Oh my God. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there is your recap of South by Southwest, brought to you by Schiller. If you guys appreciate this content, hit the like button, share it with one friends. We go live Monday through Friday talking about the Web3 space. We are going to be freaking covering a bunch of the Futureverse stuff moving forward. Really hope that this has brought value to you guys today. And yeah, I mean, I'll be back tomorrow with the normal show. I'm going to go get some water. Let's friggin' go, though. Sheesh. Are you excited? Waiting for the trailer. We'll go check that out in a second, but it's at Futureverse if you're going to check online for that. So yeah, the links are going to probably be up on their X page. So anyway, that's going to be it. I appreciate you guys. You've been awesome. See you tomorrow.